I'm doing this because I have to. I want to talk about motivation and discipline and inspiration. For a very long time, most of my life, I think I wanted to find ways to be more productive. But what I didn't recognize at the time was that I wasn't actually looking for ways to be more productive. I was looking for ways to be inspired to want to be more productive. And where I'm at now in life is recognizing that productivity happens from habits and discipline, which means that very often you're doing something when you don't want to be doing it. And I've accepted that. And I am a huge fan, I had a video about this, I am a huge fan of the book Atomic Habits because I think it sort of changed my thinking. I would blame myself a lot, I would beat myself up, I would feel like there was something wrong with me internally because I just didn't feel motivated to, you know, go out and get 20 things done off of my to-do list, that I felt like not leaving the house or sleeping or eating or doing something fun. And one of the things that I love about this book is that it kind of presents that tendency or that desire as simply human. And it got me to recognize that it really is about putting systems in place to create good habits. And so when I said at the beginning of this video, I'm doing this because I have to, it's because I decided for myself earlier this year, the beginning of 2019, that I would make a YouTube video every single week without question. And it didn't matter if it was great or not. The task and the goal was not about money or subscribers or accolades or approval. The goal for me was to simply fulfill the task of doing a video every single week without fail, without excuses, which means even over my honeymoon, I put out videos, you know, and over various vacations, I put out videos. And even though I completely acknowledge that they're not all winners and they're not going to be when you are just kind of churning out content and being consistent, you know, again, that wasn't the purpose. The purpose for me was to try to be consistent with something and kind of come face to face with all of my fears about perfectionism and fears about being judged, which I'm still continuing to struggle with. I was having a conversation with my friend and she's like, why don't you promote your videos, you know, on Facebook and whatnot? And even though I'm making them and I'm putting them out there, there's still an embarrassment. There's still this fear of people judging me. So this task kind of ties back into that of just, you know, on a Friday being like, well, do I have content? Have I filmed something? No, well, I got to figure it out. I got to figure it out, even if that means filming a crappy video on my phone in order to fulfill the task, which I've done. But for that, I'm proud. I'm really proud of myself that I've been able to stick to this goal of being consistent and making these videos every week. And it has gotten me to really recognize and appreciate how creating a habit, it's almost like it allows you to go on autopilot. So instead of waiting for inspiration to strike or waiting to feel motivated to do something, it's just something you do. It is just something you do. And earlier this year, I went through quite a funk. I had a few months there. I've made videos about it. I got off my meds and I kind of fell into like a crappy place and was feeling very depressed and very unmotivated. But despite that, because I had created this really, really strong habit of making videos, I stuck with it and I still did that. And my depression and my emotions and my sense of self-esteem didn't impact the habit that had been created of, you know, making these videos. So I guess I want to say thank you, James Clear. He was the author, or is the author of this book, Atomic Habits. I promise I have nothing to do with him, but I'm a major fangirl. I love this book because it really has changed my outlook and my ability to change certain habits. Another habit that I may have spoken about in that other video was I hated invoicing, and I'm a freelancer. I have to do invoicing. I have no choice. If I want to get paid, I got to invoice. And yet the task of invoicing was something that I hated so much, and I hated my invoicing software. And so I would avoid it, and I would procrastinate like people do with any tasks they don't enjoy doing. And so then the task became even worse because I wasn't interacting, I wasn't using my invoicing software every day. So I was always a little rusty and like remembering where stuff was. And then by that point, I would maybe be behind by like 12 or 15 invoices. And it was this overwhelming, overbearing task that sat there and gave me anxiety. And after a couple of attempts, and some failed attempts, I was finally able to conquer this and create a habit around invoicing and bookkeeping. And so one of the things that I did in creating that habit was recognizing that the more frequently I did it, even though it was a task I hated, the more frequently I did it, the easier it would become because I was interacting with the software every day, right? So I didn't have to re-remember how to do stuff. And I think I sort of learned a little bit like, oh yeah, editing videos is easy because I do it every week, right? If I went away from editing a video for months at a time, I'd have to be relearning a bunch of stuff. So the idea of consistency and frequency and just doing something on a regular basis just prevents you from getting rusty. And so I knew I had to create an invoicing habit. And so I used something that he referred, I'm pointing over here because my book is sitting on my nightstand. I realize you're like, what the hell am I referencing? He mentioned something called habit stacking. So if you're trying to create a new habit, you sort of pair it or stack it on top of a habit you already have. And so after a bunch of failed attempts where I was just trying to do my invoicing every Tuesday at 10 o'clock, but then something would happen, I'd have an appointment at 10 o'clock and it would ruin it. I finally decided, well, the one thing that I do without fail every morning, no matter what time I get up, because that changes, my waking up time changes, is the first thing I do is I make a cup of coffee. I'm a big coffee drinker. So I decided to attach invoicing to making that cup of coffee. And it worked great. And he even talks about this, that the habit you're actually creating is not even the task of what you're trying to do. So it may not be working out. The habit you're actually creating is maybe waking up and putting your running shoes on, you know? And so for me, grabbing that mug of coffee in the morning created this Pavlovian response of sitting down in front of my computer and opening my invoicing software. So it wasn't even like overwhelming, like you have to do an invoice. It was just opening the invoicing software. And of course, what that turned into is that I would do an invoice. And because I was doing it every single day, I was caught up. I didn't have to do, you know, have a huge day of doing all invoicing and all bookkeeping. And on a day where I didn't have an invoice to do, I would just, reconcile or do something else or pay a bill, just something related to it. And now it is such a no-brainer. It's not something I have to think about. I'm caught up. My cash flow is much better. I'm not worrying about when I'm going to get a check because I took such a long time invoicing them. And, you know, again, it was this thing of like, it was something I hated so much, and it's almost counterintuitive. It's like, I hate it so much, so I need to interact with it every single day. And it just changed it, right? I don't hate it as much anymore because it's just not as hard anymore. So for me, doing these videos has taught me a lot about consistency and, you know, about what discipline truly means. There are some other areas of my life where I am still working on creating good habits. I'm not super consistent with exercise, or I'm not super frequent with it. I do want to create a habit around that where I'm doing it more frequently. And so I'll keep you posted on that. I also have a writing class that I took the first part of, and I'm going to continue taking in second week of October. I think it starts up again. And that too, I was guilty of procrastinating and waiting until the last minute to do the homework, and it became this overwhelming task. So my next step is maybe trying to attach a new habit, writing a page and a half, perhaps after I do my invoicing every morning. So I'm going to try out some things to see what's most effective with that. But, you know, I think it's important to talk about because, you know, I know a lot of people struggle with this idea of like, I just don't feel like doing it. And so this week's video, I just decided to be honest about doing something because I have to, not because I want to. But even in starting out from that nugget of an idea, which I have to credit my friend Becky. We went out last night, had a fun bar hopping night, because that's what childless people in their 40s can do, and I don't take advantage of enough. So she slept over, and then we woke up this morning, had our coffee, and we were like, blah, 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 and she really helped me generate a lot of ideas. So credit goes to her. I'm gonna get her in a video soon, which I'm very excited about. I just have to figure out how to do it. But I haven't really spoken about this yet, but I'm sort of an obsessive BTS fan, and I want to do some videos around that and maybe test her, do a bias test with her. But anyway, if you like this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and comment below. I would love to know if you've managed to create any good habits in your life, productivity hacks you have, or ways of finding inspiration and pushing through when you don't want to do something. And thanks so much. Bye.